Let's get started with what Service AI is, why we're here, what you're here to see. It's a brand new product, which is really great. And we're going to look at the functionality. If you've ever seen any of my stuff, I like to be very hands-on. So I am going to have about a very short ratio of PowerPoint slides just to set the tone. Okay, so I have to be kind of a recapper of stuff. CloudRadial UCP, why do I start with that? CloudRadial Service AI, which we're going to get into, is a separate product. I start with UCP because I wanted to address something that actually came up in the last webinar, which is CSA, UCP, what's with all these acronyms? CloudRadial CSA is our flagship product. That is our client portal. We are shifting to UCP, even though the portal is still a CSA, which stands for Client Service Automation. UCP is an umbrella term. We wanted a term that really encompasses the fact that a lot of our products are going to fit together for a platform feel, and not just like, hey, we offer X, Y, and Z, but they talk to each other. So UCP stands for Unified Client Portal, and you're going to see that, an example of that at least, in our screen share today. So we're going to see how Service AI fits into that, what the greater strategy is, where the evolution of it goes. So a lot of cool stuff. Again, I won't bother you too much about what it stands for because there's a lot of cool information I want to get into, but a little clarification. We're built to help MSPs do better work with their clients through a bunch of different facets, and today is focused on the service desk. What? Let's take a look at why. So there's a lot of buzz about AI for MSPs. Buzz really in this case kind of means like we're trying to figure out where it fits because we want to make sure that we understand how to approach AI in the service desk in the first place, give it a good home, help you understand how to get it going. So we know that we want to start with some kind of a management. We know that theoretically AI can give us labor savings, AI can give us after hours support, all the cool stuff. But the part that's really hard that we've seen, that we've experienced ourselves, is approaching that is not as straightforward as it seems. There's no enable AI button or put a chat GPT or whatever in front of your clients. It's not really how it goes. The good news is you guys have arguably the best journey possible because the data that everyone wishes they had is what you're sitting on top of. And that's the big key thing here. So when we look at the AI journey for an MSP's perspective, we kind of look at these steps, and you're going to see these reflected into Service AI as we show it off. But the gist is that exact thing, right? Experimentation. Where does the buck stop? This product is not after the AIification of everything. We're not after the replacement of everybody and the end of all things. We're literally here to figure out what can it do? Is it good at? What's its best use case? We want to make sure that it integrates in places that it makes sense. We want to make sure that it has the right context. So you can see that as you kind of go down these different steps, what we're saying is like you integrate it, you train it, you test it, you refine it, and ultimately when it passes muster, your muster, right? You tell us when it's good to go. Then you have something that you can comfortably deploy, know what you're getting out of it, and in general, reap the benefits. But that takes a bit, right? That's not something you just flip on a button. So Service AI was built to help you through this journey to identify the steps to get there, identify the gaps to shore up, and make sure that you have the right path to enable this. So really, when I said that MSPs are uniquely suited for this, why and how? Well, really, you've got something that everyone else wishes, right? A lot of AI power is in context. So large language models, LLMs, are okay for general knowledge, right? They pull from the internet. Sometimes it's real, sometimes they hallucinate. And that's what a lot of, I say MSPs, any business is hesitant in putting in front of their clients because that can be embarrassing, it can be a poor client experience, you name it. So you've got the client context that everyone wishes they had, which is again, resources, configurations, whatever. Then you chuck MSP expertise. You've got ticket history, you've got customizations, you've got stack tools. You start to think about the fact that like, oh, if only we had a running database full of interactions and conversations that an AI could learn from. Oh, wait, it's all your tickets, and you've probably had them forever, and you have oodles and oodles and oodles. The gist is that what Service AI is built to do is to take an existing LLM, enhance it, containerize it to your data, look at the specifics of your information, and use RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, to take that data, contextualize it, silo it, and spit it back out to clients and agents in a way that is secure and also really helpful. And again, the main differentiation here is that if you just put a generic AI, It might triage tickets. It might even prepare them for you, right? It might gussy them up a little bit. Where it really gets helpful is with Service AI, it can actually solve the problem. We're going to see the example of how. But also, if you're not ready for the full-on AI overlord takeover, it's going to help your human agents actually get better. So instead of going straight to like AI is doing everything for us, it can get you to the stage where maybe it doesn't need to. Maybe it just needs to enhance your technicians to the point where AI can serve as this kind of big brain that is backing people up, offering them assistance, sourcing its stuff. So it's like somebody that sits there all the time. So it's more than triage. It's definitely more than categorizing some tickets. It's specifically getting tickets as perfect as possible to either auto solve or getting a human to click a button or two to solve them, right? So this is where AI really becomes transformative. And again, as you see the demonstration of the actual tool, I hope you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, for those that are existing CloudRadial customers and you're wondering kind of how this fits into the bigger puzzle, we have a handy dandy diagram to show you where this kind of fits in. So where Service AI is the brain, right? You can kind of see me circling around here. What we're feeding it, again, are your tickets, your articles slash documentation, and rules. Rules are what you're going to be able to define the Service AI as to what it can look at, right? So whether it's that specific boards and queues, specific agents, or excluding certain agents or technicians, that's the kind of the brain basis that's going to spit out insights. It's going to spit out regression testing. So it's going to be able to understand where it needs to improve and where it's lacking stuff. It's going to give you a chat sandbox where you can test those results before they get put in front of clients. And the specific delivery mechanism to end users is going to be our CloudRadial chat tool, which is where it actually rubber hits the road and it does client answers. It also works in CloudRadial UCP, and we're going to explore how and what that means in this demo. But just to show you, this is essentially where this fits in CloudRadial's product mix is we've got our UCP client portal, we've got our chat. You can think of that kind of like the body and the mouth. Service AI is our brain. This is where we are taking this stuff, enhancing it with AI, and feeding these other platforms intelligence to be as helpful, contextual, and self-solving as possible. So how you approach a tool like this from your perspective is that's a lot of promise, but you have three core phases that we want to get through when you look at a tool like Service AI. The general phases to approaching AI in the service desk are going to be analysis, right? So integration is where you take in ingesting ticket data, ingesting agents, their conversations, your documentation, and basically analyzing and assessing where you are today in the capability of AI deployment. The next phase is, okay, cool. Now it kind of gives me some values. It helps me understand how close or far I am. You get to testing, split into two things, right? One is training, where you are literally helping the AI figure out this is the right answer, this is the good approach, this is where the AI spits back at you going, you really should have this recommendation to make this process smoother. That would help me, that would help you as a human. And you've got testing where you can actually go through and say, okay, now we've done all that. Does the response look good? Does it actually make sense? Does it integrate back? All that stuff. And then when you have all those, you can actually take that to deployment. So again, deployment is where it hits the clients directly, where you have that seamless all-in-one AI chat, where it says, a user says, I have a problem. The AI says, I know the answer. I can implement the answer, and we can deploy it again, whether that's in a conversational interface like a chat, whether that's in a client portal, which is a user interface experience, or even through client validation directly. Again, we'll see that, where a client can say, this was helpful, this is not helpful. So this is how we are going to sensibly, safely, and scalably take AI and put it in front of your service desk. That's it. That's all the slides I got. So if the webinar was over here, what a disappointment. But I have a full demo, so you're not going anywhere, hopefully, because let's get into that actual demo. Whoa, that's Service AI. So now I'm going to pull up my handy dandy reference slides so I can say the right stuff at the right time. And let's get started. Let's take a look at this whole thing. So we're going to start here. This is our demo data, and it's pulled in from ConnectWise PSA. In this case, what we're starting with is we're looking at kind of like an at-a-glance intelligence of the system. So out the gate, we're supporting major PSAs, similar to what we support in CloudRadial UCP, ConnectWise Autotask, Halo Synchro, even Zendesk for this one, because that's what we use internally. So we built something to prove it. We're using Service AI internally for ourselves, which is a great way to battle test it. And then Kaseya BMS, I think, is coming real soon. It's not forgotten or off the horizon. Every widget inside of these different pages is built to answer a critical question like, are you ready for AI? What's your biggest blocker? What are you going to fix first? What's trending right, wrong, so on. Essentially, in the first 30 seconds or so on these pages, you are going to learn more about your AI readiness than you would in like 6 months of trial and error trying to figure it out yourself. The main thing, and the reason I'm kind of harping on this, is we're going to stick to this first gauge cluster that it says, this RPS score summary. RPS stands for a relative performance score, and it's really important to take time to pause and talk about this specifically because this is kind of the bread and butter of ServiceAI. Pull me up, Crystal, because I'm going to go on a little bit of an explanation. I don't want people just staring at the screen. I need you focused here. Ticket RPS. Tickets is a really important one, and I want to make sure everyone knows how we're gauging this because this is the best way we found to approach this. Ticket RPS is the AI tool's automation capability on the ticket. Specifically, what it's doing is it's looking at the conversation in the ticket and basically assessing, could I pick this up and learn it and do it myself, or is this basically useless? We're going to look at examples, but a quick one on the fly is if someone puts in a ticket saying, help, my thing is broken, and a text says, there, I fixed it, and that's the entirety, that's a really bad ticket RPS. Not because the ticket was handled poorly, not because everyone sucks. It's because the AI doesn't have much to train on. Now, if a user puts in a ticket saying, here are my specific issues, and I have this error code, and a technician comes back saying, I checked this, I didn't work, I did this, and it worked, whatever, and it's a good resolution, that's a really high ticket RPS. So in the grand scheme of things, this is telling you how good is your data for AI training today. When it gets to agent RPS, what we're looking for is the agents, aka the technicians, performance benchmarks and client interactions. We're talking about speed, replies, tone, empathy, all kinds of stuff that you want to see your agents doing when it comes to customer interaction. This is human agents specifically. And then you've got your users. These are your what we also call requesters in the system, people that are submitting tickets. How happy are they, right? Are they usually pretty good? Or they come back joking? Or they come back mad all the time? What you're going to notice, and I want to start off by saying, is that a lot of these scores you may see low, and that's not a bad thing. This is not a get everything to 10 because this is awesome. This is going to keep you aware of which one of your clients are good candidates for AI, which one would rather die than having AI put in front of them. These are the important, realistic things that are going to help you figure out where to deploy and how to deploy. So keep this in mind. These RPS scores are going to get repeated, and we're going to see how to interpret them. You can pull me back off, Crystal, because I think I'm going to go for a deep dive this time into the stuff. All right, so I won't go through everything because there's a lot of different gauges and customization. But one of the cool things you can do, again, AI lets us summarize and analyze a large set of data that would be a nightmare. Otherwise, a good example would be like your trends, right? Keyword trends, root cause, product keywords are really cool. This stuff is basically going from symptom to disease, meaning that people put in the symptoms, my passwords, my technical support, my Outlook issues, and out comes the actual disease, right? Configuration issues, failure of updates, installation errors. So you are holistically getting a better idea of how to treat the actual problems. Even the products that give you the actual problems, right? So if you start to notice trends in products that maybe part of your stack that you're realizing cause more headaches than they're worth, we want to surface that. We want to make sure that you have a really good concept of the service desk. This initial bit of conversation I'm doing is really geared around service desk analysis. And really the people we designed this around was the service desk manager. But we're going to see how this fits both your technicians, your agents, even down to the end user. Again, there's a lot of tabs. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do in here. So again, you can go through and understand the specifics of perhaps tickets, right? Your response length, your comment ratio, how tickets are classified. And again, there's oodles and oodles of customizations you can do down to what widgets you want. And the really cool thing about AI summary is that we basically have the AI summarize it, we tweak it, we clean it up. So compared to a lot of other products like UCP or chat or whatever, this goes really fast because the data sets are very, very flexible. So this is a really, really powerful product, and you can see that the customization is out of this world, which is awesome. So you can really build the views the way that matter most to you. Now, something else that's brand new that's really awesome is the Orion Assistant. So you can see this little guy on the right-hand side. Ta-da! What is that guy doing? So Orion is something that is a proof of concept, and we're going to see how this ties into a lot of other stuff too. Specifically, Orion knows ServiceAI and it knows your data. And you can see that at the bottom, there's even a little context switcher that says, hey, you want to ask me about Service AI? You want to ask me about your data? What it's doing is it is trained on every documentation piece of Service AI, which means that if I ask it what an RPS score is, it should reply back exactly what it is. If you ask it how a widget is calculated, it'll come back and tell you how that widget is calculated, short of just going, here's an article, which is very helpful. So, hey, look, scores ranging from 1 to 10, even article RPS, here's my source. Super helpful, a very different approach to onboarding and support than we've done for a lot of our other products, but this is something we're going to see more and more because it's a really easy way to get a large swath of information condensed down to an easy interface. And we're going to see throughout the demo how the about your data fits in because it's not just about how to use the tool, it's about which companies need attention, show me my tickets, and they're contextual. So as we go to different areas, the prompts will also change to match and make sure that you are focused on the key things here. So again, we're going to reference my buddy Orion throughout this demo, but just keep that in mind. So as I was formulating how to do this webinar, I think the most powerful way is to understand how the sausage is made, and a good example of that is a specific ticket analysis. So let's go over to the ticket area. You're getting your tickets ingested from the PSA. So this is a global view of all tickets. Hey, and what it's doing is it's looking at a specific time frame of those tickets. And what's happening is it's obviously analyzing them. Now I'm going to cheat because I already pre-selected some pretty good looking ones, although I didn't do much staging because I just did this kind of as the chips fall because I wanted to see how it worked. And this is a pretty good representation of how it might look for you too. So I found a ticket that I thought was interesting. What's going on here? Now, in this ticket view, there's a bunch of key bits of information that are helpful, right? The ID and the open, whatever. That's coming from your PSA. The real star of the show is this AI analysis. So what this is telling us is that this ticket is really good data. It's a good candidate for AI automation. The RPS is good at 8.0. The requester, the user is very happy. The agent at a 9.0 did a great job, right? So this is telling us at a high level that this is a good ticket. Now, if you wanted to, you can even go down and read the conversation between John, our user, and Marcus, our agent, our technician, going back and forth and having this conversation. Super simple, getting an error code 304, got it, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, Marcus offers the resolution. John says it worked. Marcus says thanks, right? Pretty standard, a very basic interaction. Let's ask Orion if it thinks it was solvable by AI and what it estimates. So now what it's going to do is it's going to take a look, crawl through, and it goes, yeah, it is. Why? They gave a specific error code, which means it's repeatable. We can find the source. We can realize how to solve it, blah, 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 right? It gives us a troubleshooting process of how it would approach it. It gives us potential follow-up interactions and so on. And it gives us observations on like, hey, this was pretty good and we could have done a little bit of a better job. So overall, this is a fantastic training piece of data, right? That's cool. If we believe AI at face value, we wouldn't get very far. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, cool, Orion, thanks so much for your positive thoughts. Prove it. So what we can do is we can actually take this to the AI chat sandbox. And imagine as you're testing and tweaking and making sure that you're good where you stand, we can prove it, right, by actually asking the chatbot, the AI, how it would have handled the tickets rather than just saying, you think you could have done this? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click off the AI chat sandbox and we're going to see what's going to happen. So it's going to run through the logic. It's going to gather context. It's going to also, you're going to see in a second, get the response, find related tickets, find related articles, spit it back out. Then what happens is you're going to see with confidence that it goes, yay, I know you've got that error code 304. Here's what I do. Here's where I sourced that thing. And I even have a rule in here saying, hey, if you want to talk about it or set up a meeting, click here and we can get that meeting set up. And it works just fine. It even says like, hey, I found really similar issues in these tickets. I didn't include any references to other tickets I found in the responses. Here's other stuff. And if I had a specific article on Zoho troubleshooting, it would have said, and I probably pulled it from here too. So what's awesome is this isn't something that a service desk manager goes, cool party trick. We have a cool answer. This is something that a frontline agent can use daily, right? You can click this from here. So this is usable anywhere today and just paste this, right? You can go ahead and paste it. You can see that it said content copied to clipboard and it would actually open that and paste that wherever I want. There's even quick links back to the ticket that it was referenced. But either way, it's pretty good. The quality indicators also tell you how good the AI estimates that its answer was. Now, in this case, it's being a little bashful. It says partially because there could have been a perfect match article that says, here's exactly how to fix error code 304, and that would have shifted it to yes, right? This is all based on confidence intervals. So at this stage, it probably still needs a agent double check, a human being taking a look and making sure the answer is applicable. But when an agent is out in the field and they rate something as useful or not useful or partially, that's really great data because that's what's coming back and showing the service desk manager that we have some gaps. There is no answer. There's no precedent for this. So let's build a precedent. And that's how you're going to take a service desk and make this basically repeatable, right? You're going to have this be a process that can be handed off not just to an AI, but a future technician, right? How would a future technician know if the knowledge to solve this issue is in one technician's head? It's about disseminating that data. So really what we're after is trying to give the tier one or tier two technicians even kind of that senior engineer behind them at all times that feeds them answers that suggest stuff, right? Sometimes they know their stuff really well. Here's the fix. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they go, I'm not super sure. Let's find out. It's basically like a real person just hanging out. Let's take a look at another ticket, shall we? Actually, you know what? I'm going to hijack my own demo. I'm going to show you guys something cool because I think we're ready for it. So I talked about how this is an example of a ticket, right? And we saw it inside of my Service AI. We saw that this is coming from ConnectWise, or at least I told you that it is. Let's go find that ticket and see what it looks like in the field. Service Desk Manager view, field view. This is a technician out in the field handling a ticket. Let's go find that exact same ticket. Here it is. How does Service AI support it? Well, when you have a pod that is referential to that ticket number, you've got the AI spitting out that answer directly to the technician alongside their stuff, right? So if it's supported immediately, and this is something we're working on building actively, then the technician can always side screen and grab the prompt and have access to the AI chat sandbox. But it's a lot easier and cooler if they can just see it here. The reason it's easier and cooler is, again, they're fielding this in the field. Literally, they can say yes, no, helpful, kind of. They can ask it additional questions. They can get a summary of the current vibe of stuff, right? So they can see like, oh, this is going really well. Or the AI goes, you're not being very empathetic, are you, buddy? Maybe you should help out, right? So it's basically just an additional estimation. Again, this is not get all the scores to 10, as we're going to see in a second. This is a really great way to understand how the performance is going and get those quick answers. So as we'll see towards the end of it, when it comes to deployment, amazing to give this to an end user and have them self-service and fix everything automatically. Cool. But for right now, for value you can get today is getting your answers back to you because this is real. These are repeatable things. So I'll come back to this perhaps in a bit, but let's go back to Service AI. So let's go to a ticket that is not all green across the board and all cool stuff. Let's go to one that I've had pre-selected as like, hey, this one could use some work. Let's see this one. Okay, Harbor Point Real Estate. Hey, that's not perfect this time, is it? It's not bad. We can see that the ticket and requester scores are not as good. And again, this is what I was talking about. I know that the service desk manager inclination is to get all the numbers to green and top. This is not improve everything. This is a state of the union. So what we can learn from this is that there's not that much data that the AI can really learn. It's pretty good, actually. It's not terrible, but it's not the best. And the requester, the user, isn't the best. But the agent did a great job. Why is that valuable? Because this is also going to give you an objective way to know if that client is just troublesome and you are all smiles and all answers and they still come back mad, that's still valuable. You may never get the user RPS up, but you want to know when that interaction, qualitatively is not going well. So don't look at low numbers as a bad thing. Look at them as learning opportunities. So in this case, what's going on? Let's get a quick look. So we've got Melissa Boxer, our user. We've got Tevin Watkins, our agent. Tevin's working on this issue. She's having files, attachment issues in Outlook. Okay. He asked stuff. She checked for stuff. He recommends launching Outlook in safe mode to try it out. She says, hey, that worked. I was able to attach files after safe mode. Okay. Then she expresses some frustration. Why is she expressing frustration? She had to wait for support for something that could have been pretty easy. She answered that 2 days after. So this is a silly but pretty realistic example that Melissa was missing a self-help bit that could have gotten her back to work, but took 2 days to do it. So obviously the ramifications here is the client took longer to get back to work. Tevin was put on a ticket that is either brainless and or he had to research and stop and look at. In general, there's room for improvement. The ticket summary told us that this wasn't a ticket that I could just pick up and run with. So what do we do in cases like this? This is a good use case and a good pattern recognition of needing to have documentation between the steps to make the future ticket RPS go up, to make the future requester happier because answers can be found a lot easier. So how do we do that? Well, look at this big fat generate article button I keep talking around over here. Let's click it. Let's see what happens. So when I click generate article, what ServiceAI is going to do is it's going to automatically inject a prompt saying, hey, let me look at this ticket, take a look. Don't mention tickets, ticket numbers, all that stuff. And it's just going to be able to create that article for you. Now, it's always better if you can give it sources. You can see that there's optional source URLs. If you know that there's a source that you want to pull from that's really authoritative, you can. If you want to enhance the prompt, you can. You can do that right from here. And again, sky's the limit. Just like any other chat tool, the more specific you are, the more detailed you are, the better the prompt comes back. Just like a human being, right? If you tell somebody to go write you something, the more notes you give them, the better the information will come back. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let it just try to figure out exactly what it thinks it should have given to her as documentation so it can pull from that in the future as is. Let's just generate the article. So, by the way, this is why ticket data is good for AI training. The more detailed that conversation is, the better the AI knows what steps it should cover in the documentation too. So, okay, we were looking at common symptoms of Outlook problems. Okay, cool. We even have that step to launch it in safe mode and double check it, disabling add-ons, repairing Outlook, how to create a new profile, so on and so forth, and additional documentation. That's just throwing it a ticket number and saying good luck. If we go the step further and actually gave it sources, it would come up with an even better thing, right? Now, what's awesome about this is ServiceAI is technically a lot simpler than a lot of our other products, meaning that for a lot of other products, we could just say, hey, hook up your PSA and then your documentation tool and then your third-party integrations, whatever. ServiceAI runs off two primarily. It runs off of an article documentation system and it runs off of your PSA. This is the article documentation system bit. So we pull in that ticket, and when we have these options, we can save it as a file and stick it anywhere we want, or we can add it to the KB directly. When we're connected to the KB, what's happening is we can either save it locally inside of ServiceAI. That will make it globally available. This is a good example. It's an Outlook ticket. People are probably going to have this issue. Okay. If you hook up CloudRadial as your documentation system, or IT Glue, which we support as a documentation system as well, works a little differently. Those have siloed documentation per customer. And what's really awesome about that is as you generate specific things. So let's say, I know this is generally Outlook. Let's say this was a specific thing on Zoho accounting that only one of your clients uses. It would create that documentation base just for them. So that makes it, again, augmented generation. It's going to pull the stuff that matters to them. It's going to pull the stuff that applies to them and not the stuff that applies to nobody. So you can see how it is a snowball product. The more you use this and the more you feed it, the smarter and better it gets, the more ready for AI deployment you get. And this is an example of solving that thing. So setting the expectation, clicking the add KB button, locking and loading. This is not going to make your ticket RPS shoot to 10. That is set in stone. The next one that comes in may be a different story, right? Because now we actually have stuff to look at and to reference. So that's also something that can help, again, human agents today. That's not just about training AI for tomorrow. Speaking of, let's see how ServiceAI is going to help you actually coach and understand the non-AI performance. So we also have a handy dandy agents tab on the left here. Pull me away, Crystal, because these guys are there you go. You're going to want to see my handy agents tab real good. Okay, so what's happening is our agents in here are the people that are being assigned tickets inside of the PSA, short of some Service Insight fake one. So we're going to pick on Tevin because we were picking on him before. And what's going on? So remember, Service AI is not just doing AI tomorrow or whenever from now. You can do this right now with the data you already come in to Service AI with. So what it's doing, right? Keep in mind those 3 RPS scores. Now it's estimating those in relation to Tevin. So how automatable are Tevin's tickets? How happy are the people Tevin deals with? How well is Tevin doing? So similar to what I said before, this does not mean Tevin needs to work on his agents or his tickets necessarily, or his RPS for his users are bad. This basically is proving to me that Tevin gets put on prickly client calls because he's really good at it. And it's telling me that he is a good candidate because he still manages to maintain professionalism. He could probably add better notes that would make his tickets more trainable, but this is still pretty good, actually. When you look at the factors, it's also explaining to you what's going on, right? So what's happening is it's analyzing the specific interactions, giving you specific coaching insights on him objectively, right? And it's measuring everybody in the same way. And that helps you figure out, like, hey, maybe this guy needs help with de-escalation, or he's good at hardware, bad at cloud, like stuff like that that you might need to really dig in deep for a technician to find out. We can even get a super specific report on how they're doing. So in the last tickets that they analyze, you can generate a performance report, it can pull it up. And now what's going to happen is it's going to basically give us a coaching roadmap and breakdown of, like, he's really good at communication, not super great at de-escalation, whatever. So different facets that we're measuring them on. Again, technical knowledge, empathy, blah, 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 all scored from actual tickets, all scored from actual comments. And this is basically the best way you can coach somebody because you can give them a performance review with standards of examples. So it literally says, like, hey, he did well here, he could use help here, and it'll source which tickets he did those things on. I believe this other example that I did even references, like, hey, in that VPN issue with Sobe Johnson, he did this, he did that, so on. So really nice way to get a wrap up of the most recent tickets that they're doing and where he can do better and everything else too. So what's awesome is if you imagine that, I'm going to go back to the main agents overview, across your entire team, it's not intended nor recommended to be a hammer tool to point out people who could do better. What it's really good at is figuring out who can take angry clients, who needs some training, who's ready to train AI, who's your best documentarian, right? Who's burning out. Stuff that real life technicians deal with that often gets buried because everyone's busy on the desk. No one has time to dig into these analytics, which is why AI is so good at surfacing them up and measuring them equivalently. So again, maybe a high scorer becomes an AI trainer, somebody else that coaches people. Overall, the goal is to improve the quality of the desk, AI and human, not only AI and human. So if you can fix these things, the gaps, the coaching opportunities, customer experience goes up. I had tangential to this webinar, I had a conversation with one of our clients going, where does ServiceAI fit? Because CloudRadial is client. That's kind of our comparison. We always talk about client, 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 but now we've got a service tool. In working with everybody for years, we've figured out that a lot of the client interactions and relationships get built here. So it is in everyone's best interest, including in the client portal, to make those client interactions stellar, even on the service desk. So we are still approaching this, despite the fact that this is service related, from a client first perspective, from improving that relationship. And then AI is a great multiplier and stuff, and it happens to be there, but it's all about that exceptional client experience and exceptional delivery mechanism from the MSP to the client. So, oh, look at that. I'm going to switch gears one more time. Let's get to companies as an example. So what happens with companies? Now, again, these are pulled in from the PSA. What's happening is, I'll pick Summit Financial as a good example, is we are looking kind of like the agent's view at specific details now on the core issues and analysis of this client of ours. And what we're doing is we're looking at the key issues that they're dealing with specifically, right? So Outlook issues, server connections, so on and so forth, even down to, if we scroll down, it's got individual user profiles. So this is their users that are, again, submitting tickets and whatnot. This is the stuff that their RPS scores. Pardon, I had a brain fart in the middle of a webinar. My bad. And so on. So overall, again, same concept. We're going to help you interpret how to improve them. Again, low scores, not a problem necessarily, could be, but it's just a way to figure out how they are experiencing your service desk. In this specific example, a low user RPS might be out of the service desk's hands. And we've seen that that a lot of times the service desk is tasked with kind of dealing with more executive or account management issues. Maybe it's just a bad fit client, and you want to be able to prove that empirically. So if you're having these issues, finding out that you're taking a bunch of time and these people are coming back unhappy all the time, it's nice to be able to have the data back that up for you. And that's something that can get surfaced on a company view. Now, when we go to think about the actual deployment of AI to this company, now we're talking about Summit Financial Advisors here. We also want to ensure that we are giving them the most tailored, brilliant, ideal experience ever because we all know what it's like to have a crappy AI put in front of you that doesn't answer your questions, it doesn't listen to you. We don't like that. So what I'm going to do is don't look at the webinar. This shouldn't be here. It's gone. Oh, wow. Hey, look, there's a company rules section. What's going on with that? Well, again, as we have the chat in front of them, we can add additional rules. We're going to get to global rules after this. I started backwards on purpose, where the AI can have specific rules that just affect Summit Financial. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to deploy generic AI. I'm going to deploy some CloudRadial AI. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy paste this thing and pretend like I thought it up now. Whoa, use formal language and compliance disclaimers and talk like a pirate, because why not? Cool. So what's going to happen is the global rules you set for your AI chat apply, but these are going to cascade intelligently, meaning that these may override those rules because you're giving it a company specific thing. So you can do that at the company level. You can do that down to the user level. So if I want Ted treated one way or Sophie treated one way, I can do that. The reason that's really powerful is because that kind of takes away the argument that AI is crappy and generic. Because imagine that your CEO gets white glove treatment, access to escalated links, all that kind of stuff. Your trouble user gets more concise answers or longer answers or more support, more hand holding, faster escalation, you name it. You can really tweak the way that you're taking this to market. And now you have a good mechanism to understand and change the delivery and the expectation of the AI. So once again, the easiest way to think about it, short of rules and workflows, whatever, is like tapping your coworker on the shoulder and going, hey, so and so is a trouble client. Make sure you treat them this way or they'll freak. You're just telling it that, and it now knows that. Once the rules are in place, again, we don't want to leave you flat on your face. We don't really believe in you throwing it to us as an act of faith. Let's test it. So at the top of the company, if I test AI training, I am now training and testing what it would be like as a generic user for Summit Financial. Let's go ahead and I'll paste a generic thing I found here. Whoop. Okay, so now I'm somebody randomly from Summit Financial saying, I can't access compliance folders. I need it for an audit tomorrow. There's urgency. There's some stuff in here. So what the AI is going to do is it should adapt. It should recognize it. It should maintain the formal rules. And with some luck, if it reads my prompt and understands that I'm trying to be a silly guy, it should come back talking like a pirate. Ahoy, matey. I don't want to read the whole plight thing, but it's pretty cute. Again, the point of it is that it's following those instructions specifically and ideally. So this customization, again, is going beyond just a company. Orion, which is kind of what this is, right? I'm going to use Orion generically as my version of chat, is your personality. So it comes, pretty basically as a generic chatbot. But the more you do stuff like this, it doesn't have to be pirate talk, the better Orion will be at answering stuff, at testing stuff, at getting your tone and your brand. So again, the stuff that we hate is the generic, boring slop. This is the way to make this interesting, accurate, and actually interactive, which is much, much, much better and much, much, much more engaging. So whether you want your tone to be super professional, formal, whatever, that's your voice. It's not CloudRadial's voice. This is just the mechanism that you take to the client. If you remember that, pull me up, Crystal, because I'm going to go on a little bit of an unscheduled tangent. If you remember my phrase from my PowerPoint, that was I'll pull it up. I'm doing this sloppy, guys. You're seeing this with me. This analyze, train, test, deploy. What that really means is that the deployment phase is the one that benefits the most from what we're looking at on screen, right? The customizations for how do I talk to a user? How do I talk to a company? The way we deliver that is, especially to end users, is primarily going to be through CloudRadial chat. And without spoiling it, you're probably going to want to take part in the October, I think it's the 21st, if I'm correct, if I remember my dates right. That's going to be basically the vehicle of taking these customizations to end users. So this itself is not a chat. I want to be clear because I've had questions on that before. This isn't something a technician is logging a ticket for or someone can pick up, whatever. This is basically Q&A against a set of data, a set of knowledge base articles, tickets, whatever. It's an answer thing. Getting these customizations takes it to the next level. And the chat being the delivery mechanism makes it so we can take authentication, we know the user, we know the configuration, we know the documentation that user has available and emphasizes it and amplifies it one more level and puts it behind technicians and stuff that can do it. So again, Forget about an AI that just triages something nicely. It gives them the answer and or just starts running stuff off of it. When we get to that part, right? Remember, ServiceAI is new and fresh. What we're doing with it in UCP is something that we want to have working really awesomely too, kind of like this sidebar. So I don't have a working prototype yet, but imagine this guy inside of the client portal, meaning that again, AI-powered assistance inside of the UCP. UCP is going to get us access to key resources. So it's not just check out this article, it might be check out this course, check out these reports if you have the right access, right? So you can start to see how treating our unified client portal, again, shifting from our client service automation to unified client portal, starts to get us the flow where you have a body of resources inside the client portal. You've got the mouthpiece with chat, and you've got the brain of Service AI coordinating all these things. That's how these three kind of flagships of our product all come together. That stuff's upcoming, which is why you're seeing me gesture and talk over a screen. But I'll show you something you can do today. So practical terms today and a sneak peek of this is a tool that we're genuinely using ourselves internally, which is always a good sign because we don't just go, yeah, you try it. So let's see what it looks like on a real tenant. This is totally unsanctioned and my boss will be mad when I show you, but I don't care. You guys are not going to tell anybody. This is a real tenant. The one I showed you is a demo tenant. You can see that I've got 8,000 tickets and so on. I have an access tab. Access tab comes with public chat access. So what's happening is we've looked at what it could be, right? The company rules, the user rules, the documentation, all that stuff really, really gets effective when it's coming down to a user talking, having an AI conversation. Public chat access is a way you can take this power and put it to clients today. Now it's unauthenticated. So what that means is it's not going to get you that customization personality because we don't know if it's Summit, financial, whatever, but it has its purpose. Instead of a pure chat thing, imagine that this is an easy way to crawl like resources, documentation, whatever, without having to actually read through that, which is everyone's least favorite part of it. So in my case specifically here, I've got a URL that I can put on a website, inside Teams, whatever. Welcome text, prompts, right? Very simple like this. Again, not like a chatbot or not unlike a chatbot, but it's not back and forth chat. The way that that actually ends up looking is, let's take my CloudRadial UCP. So if I have this coming and I have all these rules set up, I'll show you one more rule set actually. I can go into ServiceAI and set those global rules I mentioned. So you can see, hey, if someone asks about billing, go here. If somebody does this, urge best practices, don't talk about apple pies and weather and stuff. Talk about things that are relevant. So just like you would expect, you want to be able to inject these chat rules. When it comes time to deploying it to clients, you can see that in my example, we're testing it the same way you would. So when I pop this open and I have this load, it is now anything CloudRadial UCP. So again, not quite tickets, but what I can do is I can start to ask questions that a lot of our onboarding people do, a lot of our tier one technicians do, that really should just be things that we can self-service whenever. So if I ask it, for example, report archives, one of the features of CloudRadial, what are they? How does it work? This thing is applying my global rule set against my documentation, crawling through, scraping it, understanding it, cleaning it up, and then spitting it back out to users so that they actually understand. So again, we're starting to see this in portals. We're starting to put it out there and use it as an assistant. We're also going to clean up the stuff. So you can see I'll have a little blue on the sidebar. But the gist is that it goes, hey, cool, here's how it works. The better your documentation is, the more accurate your answers are. Here's the purpose. Here's whatever. Awesome, down to limitations, down to how it works, whatever. So you can see that managing this is so much simpler, better, and easier because now we start to understand holistically, right? Back to my Service AI example. How are things going? How automatable is my data? What does it mean to work on the service desk? Is it just tickets in, tickets out? Not anymore. This is where AI transformation happens. AI transformation is this stuff trainable? Is this stuff repeatable? Take a look at documentation, right? Is my documentation old as hell? Is it really pretty good, right? Do I need to rework stuff? Because if my stuff is accurate, again, my humans are better, my internal AI agents are better. There's a lot of improvement that happens. So over the last 45 minutes, right, I was able to hopefully to your what's the right word? To your appeasement, analyze your service desk operation, told you where AI is today, generated documentation and shown you how you can do that really, really quick, figured out how to coach people and customize your responses globally, per person, per company, So you have a good rollout method. That's not even all of it. There's still more stuff in here. Obviously, the most important thing that I always skip is dark mode. There's dark mode. It launches with dark mode. We don't have to wait for that. But that's a big one. There's even more things that I don't cover specifically just because it's got a lot. But there is a very clear path as to how you can go from I don't know to I now know to I want to work to feeding those responses and so on and so forth. Crystal, at the risk of ramming through more stuff that I am woefully unprepared to ram through, I think I want to take this time to say thank you guys for taking a look. I know this is a little bit different than a lot of the other CloudRadial products we've had. Usually we do a Q&A and stuff, and the reason that I wouldn't do one today is not because I'm like, no, no, it's because a lot of the things that are happening with Service AI are in flux, i.e., we are still figuring out the automation process behind it. You can purchase it starting today, which is awesome because all the stuff I showed you is working and ready to go. The specific things that are in flux are going to be like how to provision tenant and whatnot, which we will do for you. And a lot of the initial implementations are going to be working with me directly. So a lot of these people that are going to start up with Service AI are going to get my help getting through this stuff, getting my double check on data and figuring out exactly the best way it works. So please give it a shot. And if you do have questions, I think the plan right now is to ask us. You can always throw it in the chat, throw it in the Q&A. Worst case scenario, we can get back to you for pricing information, for logistics of like implementation, rollout, all that other stuff. If you're a new client or you're hopefully going to become a new client, please talk to your AE, your account executive. I believe that we have a demo link for Service AI as well. I think it's just cloudradial.com/demo, and you should have the ability to select Service AI. If you're an existing client, talk to your account manager. They can probably answer a few questions for you right now. And same thing, we're going to make sure that you have a good expectation set, understand how your data works, and then help you kind of start to achieve this AI transformation goal. With that being said, I think I'm done off my spiel. Crystal, I don't know what we want to do, short of flashing the sign and going, get a demo, pew, pew, pew. So thank you guys. I want to really, really thank you for everything. And again, hopefully I see you out there. Hopefully I work with you for some Service AI stuff that we can get started transforming your service desk.